I also believe that our belief system and that what we believe is also based on our ability to imagine. It's based on our ability to see something that is not currently there. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Pivot Mindset Podcast. My name is Justin. I'm your host. And man, really excited to have you joining us on another episode. Man, we believe here, as you already know, that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. That success is absolutely a deliberate decision that each and every one of us makes every single day in order to be all that God has called us to be, in order to move forward, in order to be the best versions of ourselves, in order to not be victims and be victors, to not be below and to be above. And man, so thanks you for joining us on another episode. Man, before we jump into the topic today, I'm just going to ask that you would give this podcast a rating and review. You guys know that is really the only way that we get this message out. That's the only way that it makes sense to continue to pour in and produce a podcast, is if this is valuable to you. Like I don't want to just waste your time. I'm always looking to add some kind of value. So if this is valuable to you, my only ask is that you show so by sharing. So that is, reposting, this on your Instagram or your Facebook or wherever, your socials, your TikTok, all that kind of stuff. Feel free to tag me in it, as well as give this podcast a rating and review. So if you haven't done a rating yet, all you have to do is click open your iTunes podcast app, go to the Pivot Mindset Podcast, and go to where the reviews are. Go ahead and click the 5 stars and go ahead and get some quick feedback on how this podcast maybe encouraged you, helped you, etc. So man, really excited to have you joining us. Man, I'm really excited to talk about this topic. This topic is, a topic that I just love to talk about. It's one of those that'll just kind of fire you up. And it's on the topic of belief. It's really about belief. So, and I don't really necessarily have a title. Really, I just want to encourage you guys in some areas of belief. So quick story. Man, when I was growing up, I didn't necessarily have the best upbringing. I personally didn't have, I didn't see a lot of the typical upper class, middle class things. I talked about in some previous episodes that I knew my childhood was kind of a struggle because I realized that my favorite foods were all struggle meals, right? The things that I loved to eat was like pork and beans and hot dogs and, just stuff that I never had steak. I never did a lot of those things, right? Until I got a little bit older. Life got better at some point. Life got better in my teenage years. But when you struggle, right? Like when you don't have a lot, and this is the thing that I also admire about children, is you have to build an imagination. You have to build an imagination like nothing else. The best thing that you can have if you don't have is imagination. And there's some point in life that I think we lose our imagination. I don't know what age it is. I don't know if it's when things happen negatively. I'm not sure if it's when we have our first breakup or we have our first heartache or we have our first ball that's dropped. I don't know if it's when we become teenagers. I don't know when we hit puberty. I'm not sure when it happens, but there is a point in our life where we begin to lose our imagination. Our imagination as a kid often is very vibrant, very bright. I've got 2 young kids, Zane and Zara, shout out to you. And they have great imaginations. And I love it because I can begin to tell them a story and they'll just go with it. I can call a rock a sword, right? And I could call a piece of lint on the ground snow, and I can make a story around that. And they will go with me in the story. They will go with me in whatever the story I describe. And I love kids and where they are just because they have such great imaginations. And I think we lose that. And a part of belief and a part of our ability to have belief for something better is our ability to imagine. And, but not necessarily in the kid way, right? So if you think that imagination, means that you just have to think of fairy tales, and you think that imagination means that You've got to be thinking of, sci-fi movies, and you got to be thinking of nonfiction. Like you have to be thinking of just crazy random things. That is a part of imagination. A part of imagination is thinking outside the box. But I also believe that our belief system and that what we believe is also based on our ability to imagine. It's based on our ability to see something that is not currently there. And so I'm going to look at the definition of imagination really quick. The definition of imagination is the faculty or action of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to senses. I'm gonna repeat that again. Your imagination is the faculty or action of forming new ideas or images or concepts of external objects not present to the senses. This is good. I didn't know we were gonna go here, but we're going here. So if you struggle in any area of your belief, right? If you are struggling with believing for more, maybe you're at a point in your life where you've lost faith. Maybe you have lost your way. Maybe you stopped believing for big because you've been so discouraged, because you've been so depressed, because you've been so beat up, because you've heard no so many times, because every time you've dreamed big, every time you tried to imagine for more, it didn't happen. And one of the things that can typically do is it can get you to start thinking more inside the box. I think disappointment is the biggest barrier to imagination. I think when you get so disappointed in life, you lose your imagination. When you get so much loss, you experience so much lack, you experience so much heartache that your imagination as a kid, it maybe is huge and it just continues to get compressed to smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I love the definition because it talks about it's an external object not present to the senses. That's the part that I love about imagination is because it's not necessarily present to your eyes, your touch, your taste, your smell. The thing about belief is it's very much a part of your imagination. If you don't have the ability to imagine something new or something different, then you can't put your belief in it. And so if you want to build your belief, if you want to begin to believe again, if you want to begin to dream again, if you want to move further in life and do things that maybe you never thought you could accomplish, or there was a point in your life that you did think you could accomplish it, but things happened and therefore you're not accomplishing it, or you don't have the desire to accomplish it anymore. Could it be that your disappointment has led to you shrinking down your imagination and limiting what you actually could do? And so in this episode, man, I just want to charge your faith. I want to charge you to begin to imagine again. I want you to start to think outside the box. I want you to start to think through things that are not in your senses, to think through things that are not in your purview, that are not in your reach. I want you to start to believe again. And it first starts with your imagination. And so in this episode, y'all, I want to do a quick exercise. This is just impromptu. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm hoping it's going to help you. I want you to begin to imagine the next version of you. I know the version of you right now, you've worked so hard to be, you've probably had to go through hell and back to become, you've gone through a lot, you've experienced a lot, you've triumphed over a lot, you've won a lot, but you've also lost some things. You've also have lost some relationships. Maybe you've lost some friendships. Maybe you've had some heartache and pain. Could it be that through the ups and the downs, the ins and outs, the mountaintops and the valleys, that you've shrunken your belief system back? And if this episode is a success, what it will do for you is it will begin to get you to expand your belief system again. Is it will take the bounds and the limits off of what you think is possible for your life. If this episode is a success, your imagination will become a cheat code to allow you to fulfill, accomplish all that God has for you. Can I say this? I believe that our lives are meager, not because God is not able to bless us. I believe if we live meager lives, it's because we've lost our imagination. It's because we don't have belief for more. I did a call with somebody, and you guys know I'm a coach and I do calls with people all the time, whether that's clients or people who are interested in coaching or people who just are looking for some guidance and some support. And I was talking to an individual, and as I was talking to them, I got the sense that they didn't really have a passion and a fire for what we were on the phone for. And I straight up asked them, I said, are you sure you're passionate about this? Because if you say this is really the gifting and the call that's on your life, I don't see enough fruit. I don't see enough action that you've done that would substantiate your argument that this is what you believe that God has placed on the inside of you. And what I realized in conversating with them was it wasn't that they didn't have fire or passion. It's that they didn't have belief. It's that they didn't believe that what they visioned and dreamed could actually happen. So every day they woke up, they, instead of striving for more, instead of playing offense, they took up a defensive position. Instead of going for the fences, swinging for the fences, trying to hit the home run, they just started to shrink back and do anything they could just to keep the thing going. Man, could I encourage you in this episode, stop trying to shrink your life back. It's not going to fail this time. It's not going to crumble like you think it is. It's not going to fail again. This is your time to take the next step. And if you always move with so much caution, you would miss out on everything that God has for you. How about you live a life wide open, knowing, man, I'm going to go a million miles a minute and I'm going to have belief that this thing is going to happen. Come hell or high water, this thing is going to happen. And so let's imagine what your future could look like. Let's imagine what your life could look like if everything you have vision for and everything that God has placed on the inside of you happens. How would your life look? How would your family look? How would your legacy? What would your children's life be like? What would your spouse's life? What would your marriage look like? What would your community look like? What kind of home would you be able to live in? How much would you be able to give back to your community? How much more responsible could you be for other communities that aren't you? What programs or groups or organizations could you invest in? What visions could you help get off the ground? What generational curses could you break in your family if you finally decided to be the curse breaker in your family and get outside of yourself and have belief that you too can win again? You can win. You can win absolutely with what you got. You can win with the gifts that God has given you. You can win with your skill set. You can win with your ability. You can win with everything you've got. But what you can't not win with is you got to have belief. You cannot win without belief. You cannot win without imagination. You cannot believe without an optimism that you can win. You cannot win without a knowing deep down inside of you that, man, I'm going to be called crazy. People gonna think my mind's going nuts because I'm believing. If I look at the word imagination, I'm believing in external objects that are not present to the senses. What I'm believing for, you won't have room enough to perceive. And so I'm not gonna let your disbelief stop me from believing in it. What I'm believing God for is beyond your senses. And I'm not going to not believe God because you can't comprehend it yet, because you can't see it happening, because you can't see it working out. And so I'm going to choose today, man, that, listen, I'm going to take the best step. And the best step today is to get my belief back in order. The best step that I can make today is to begin to dream again, is to begin to tie down my beliefs again, right? And I believe getting your beliefs in order is very much like routine maintenance when it comes to your vehicle, right? Like you got a car, you got to get an oil change, right? You get that oil change, once every 3,000, 5,000, depending on if you got a synthetic, 10,000 I've seen. I think my car is like every year, once a year, I only need an oil change. But it's this routine maintenance. It's this maintenance that says, yeah, once you're on the road for a while, we just got to make sure things are tied down. We got to make sure that there's no loose screws, right? We got to make sure that all your levels are back to where they're supposed to be, because we have to make sure that your vehicle belief is running at the optimal levels. Okay. So I want to encourage you, man, that if you're listening to this episode, that it's time to tap into your belief. Have you stopped believing as much? Have you stopped believing for more? What is it that you used to believe for that you don't believe any longer? What is it that you used to dream of, that you used to have imagination of, that you just don't have imagination for anymore? What has life sucked out of you that you stopped thinking through and you stopped being confident about? How much loss and pain and failure have you seen around you that has almost forced you to shrink back because you didn't want to become another statistic, because you didn't want to become somebody that was laughed at online, or because you didn't want to become another example of somebody who tried to do a get rich quick scheme or try to go. Like, how often do we find ourselves just leaking belief? Belief will leak out. Belief, man. I gotta. If you watch it on YouTube, right? This is a glass of water, and it's a little bit left in it. This is exactly what belief is like. And at some point, this was a full glass of water, right? And over time, life will just pour an ounce out. Experiences will just pour an ounce out. Heartache will pour an ounce out. Failure will pour an ounce out. Limiting beliefs will pour an ounce out. Seeing other people around you fail will pour an ounce out. Naysayers and people that say that you can't do it, it'll pour an ounce out. And so you'll get to the end of this thing and you'll realize that, man, I don't have enough belief to continue on. My cup is empty. I don't have enough belief. I don't have enough imagination. I don't have enough in me to really go for the thing that I'm desiring. And so I just pray that not only that this episode be the thing that help you get that belief back, help you charge yourself back, but man, find other resources, man. Get in your Bible, get in your word, find some messaging. Sometimes you may need a retreat. You may need to separate yourself, book yourself a hotel for a weekend, and just get back into your beliefs. Just set some time to imagine. Get in a journal. Talk to a friend that you know is always optimistic and always trying to talk you into something good, and get with them and just begin to dream again. Oh man, I don't know who this is for, but just begin to dream again. Just remember that what God has placed on the inside of you, it ain't expire. It ain't expire. It still has some life left in it. It ain't spoiled. There is not a best due by date. There's no expiration date on it. If you are alive, if you are able to listen to this episode, it ain't too late. If you're hearing this episode, it is not too late to go ahead and live a big, grand, audacious, supernatural, phenomenal, exuberant life that you were destined to have. All right. And so I just want to encourage you in that, man. Be encouraged, have belief, tap into your imagination, and I promise God can make it happen. All right, y'all. I'll see you in the next episode. And remember, we here believe that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. Peace.